Hey, Mike.
It was
So, obviously, first big move of your career. I'd be interested to know. I actually just saw you post about an hour ago, shooting out of Brooklyn Bridge Park. Like how you've been embracing Brooklyn, and what this has been like as a new home. But off the court, but also what it's been like. With this coaching staff and getting back in the situation.
yeah. Honestly, it's been great. I think taking a few weeks to get acclimated has been amazing, and just kind of exploring the city. Coming to New York, like from Denver, we would come to play the Knicks once a year, the Nets once a year. It always seems super overwhelming. But since I've gotten here and I've gotten to kind of figure it out a little bit, I've honestly enjoyed it a lot. So it's an adjustment for sure. Obviously, it's the first time I've been traded, but everyone from the organization to the people I run into, right outside of my apartment, everyone's showed a lot of love, and it's been great so far.
You talked about first off, welcome. You talked about when you came as a visitor. It was a little probably
Yeah.
a little energetic and a little busy and overwhelming. I'm curious, twofold. One, how are you going to adjust going forward on the court? Doing a lot more probably self creation than you had to do when you had a center who could get a double double, any triple double every game. And how have you adjusted off the court? Because you also talked, you're kind of more of a country guy, small town guy. New York is a little bit of a different place. What kind of conversations have you had with the organization just about how much of a culture shock New York might be for you? Because I know you're very active on social media. You put yourself out there. How much of an adjustment is that going to be for you?
Yeah, I mean, on the court, first of all, I think obviously it's going to be an adjustment. It's going to be a lot of fluid conversations between me and the coaches just about the role they expect. I think Jordy does a great job not leaving anything up to players to guess. He really tells you what he expects, and we've already had some conversations. And obviously, my role is going to be different. Jamal and Nicola had a very fluid two-man game, so when it got to the fourth quarter and the game was tight, we would go to the two-man game a whole lot. Over here, it's going to be completely different, and I got to be ready for that. My body's got to be ready to handle the load. I got to be ready to be fresh as a go-to guy in the fourth quarter, and I'm aware of that. So it's going to be an adjustment. It's going to be some growing pains and a growing period, but I'm ready for it. And I'm excited for it. And yeah, off the court, I mean, New York is obviously a lot different than Denver. It's a lot different than Missouri, where I'm from. So it's going to be an adjustment, but I'm still the same dude. I spend most of my days in the gym and at the house, kind of just chilling and recovering and getting ready for the next day. So I'm not a guy that does a whole lot. Most of my career and even during the season here, social media is not a big part of my life. Like, I think for me, basketball has been such a vocal point of my entire life, and I think I never really was a guy that had tons of hobbies off the court. So for me, some of the social media stuff and things this summer was a little bit of just a hobby. But during the season, I'm always, basketball for me my entire life has been my focus and where my attention goes to.
Hey, welcome to Brooklyn. And Nick was just in here talking about how there's a lot of guys on the team and a lot of rookies that are young but have a lot of experience playing overseas as professionals. I'm just wondering, in your experience, if there is a common trend of guys that play professionally before they get to the NBA? I know with NIL, there is a bit of professionalization of college sports, but do you see a difference when young players have professional experience?
Yeah, I do. I mean, think about how like pro ready like Luka Doncic was at such a young age, and then, Nikola Jokic and different players. And obviously that's not every overseas players, but I do see a trend in how prepared they are to just embrace the lights, embrace the competitiveness, and not look at guys. A lot of guys, when you first get to the NBA, it takes a little minute to not look at these superstars as you did when you were growing up watching them. Like, it took me a little minute to not look at KD or LeBron or Steph as peers. It takes a little while. I think overseas players, it's a little different because they've been playing professional so long, and I even noticed it in Ben. I was talking to the coaches about Ben, just how he is in open gym and just how impressive he's been to me. I think he's 19, 20 years old, and just his level of like professionalism, just walking around, is well beyond his years. So I think that there has to be some trend in that for sure.
Hey, Michael, you kind of mentioned growing pains as you transition here to Brooklyn, but I'm curious, how much do you think that your pre-existing relationship with Jordy will help alleviate some of that?
Yeah, I think that that is an amazing, thing for me, is to just have some familiarity. And now Jordy's a head coach, and me and him had a great relationship for the few years that he was in Denver when he was an assistant coach. And I think now, with him as the head coach and just us already knowing each other, him already being familiar with me on the court and off the court, and him also kind of seeing in Denver those years, seeing different ways that I could be utilized. So he already has ideas and things that he's been talking to me about. And I think that that has been big for me, just coming to a new city, and feeling just a little bit of being overwhelmed, just to have a guy as the head coach that I'm working with every day that is someone like Jordy. And it's good to see him in his role as the head coach, because, you can tell just this is where he belongs, Jordy's an assistant coach and Jordy's a head coach, same dude, but he's just the culture he's trying to create here is really awesome, and I'm really excited to play for him.
Hey, Mike, front row here. Welcome to Brooklyn, first off. You've been a guy that's been like the top high school player going in your class. You were the main guy at Mizzou when you were there. And then you go to Denver, and on a team that was a championship contender, you played a little bit of a different role, but you starred in that role. Coming here, you kind of have an opportunity to be the go-to guy. For you as a guy that's, especially, coming up young, been a star and the go-to guy, kind of face of a team, what are your expectations that you kind of have that opportunity again? Maybe I would say more so than you ever had in your NBA career. Like, what do you expect out of yourself this year, possibly?
Yeah, my whole basketball career leading up to the NBA, that was my role, was being a guy that all my teammates looked to and being a leader of a team. And when you get to the NBA and there's guys older than you, more established than you, I think a lot of players fizzle out because they don't know how to adjust to that new role, because these are all the best players in the world. At some point in your career, you were the man, but I definitely was accustomed to that role, and in Denver it was different. But I think I never lost that the ability to do that in summer pickup runs when Nikola or Jamal weren't on the floor with me. I was still trying to push myself in that area of like being the guy on the team, even if it's a pickup run. So I think coming here, the role is going to be different, and I'm not, we already have so many good players on the team who, Cam Thomas, I think that he's one guy that has been severely underappreciated in his ability to put a team on his back and score the ball. And, I experienced it playing in Denver when we played the Nets. Like, Cam he's a tough cover, but we got a lot of good players here, and I think that we're going to work together very cohesively. And but me personally, I'm embracing that role as a leader, and having won at the highest level and played in the playoffs every year that I've been in the NBA, I think that not just on the court, but also off the court in the film sessions, I'll be able to share some things with these young guys that hopefully will kind of speed up the process for everybody.
Michael, Ray, I guess to that end, I was wondering, what do you think, will be harder? Is it going from the first time from having been a star in your amateur career to kind of downsizing your role, or now having to be the guy for the first time in your professional career and something you haven't done before in this place?
Yeah, I definitely think the challenge will be, especially post some of the injuries I've gone through, and kind of being able to play a role in Denver, and kind of being able to defer to Nikola at times or Jamal at times. You saw glimpses when Jamal would be out where I was asked to do a little bit more, and I was capable of doing it. But I definitely think the harder thing will be going from that to this. It's going to take a whole new level of focus for me, and a level of intentionality with my workouts and my conditioning and this and that, but and my recovery as well. The load will be a lot different. There will be less standing in the corner for me, and watching Jamal and Nikola do their two-man game. So it's going to take a level of being in shape that I probably haven't been in. But like I said, I'm embracing it. I think this year is a very important year for me in my career. And I'm excited to get things going. I feel like my body's in a good place. And, even though there's been Yeah, I mean, my focus has been basketball. That hasn't been the main things that I've put out on the social media. But over the summer, I feel like I've taken my game to a new level, my conditioning to a new level. So I'm excited to show that for sure.
Welcome to Brooklyn, first of all, back here. Just kind of talking about more specifically the reputation Brooklyn has around the league of good development, a good culture, especially with Jordy being here. Is that something you've seen firsthand? Can you account or attest to those rumors? And then also, just kind of going forward in your career, we've heard 1% better used a lot from a lot of these guys. Does that resonate with you at this kind of stage in your career specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been around a group of guys in the that takes so much pride in like all the little things. Like every day, they're keeping track of all the little ticks on your body, and creating programs for us and things like this. And Denver was great, but this is a whole new level of like attention to detail that I haven't been a part of. Obviously, I've only been in Denver, but even the guys in the locker room just telling me stories of guys that would get traded here and be like, man, this is completely different than where I'm. It was the same thing for me. Like their attention to detail and pushing you and kind of seeing you progress and then changing your program. And that's in the weight room, but that's also on the court as well. And Connor, who's one of the main guys putting me through my workouts, he was also in Denver for a number of years. So that's also another familiar face for me. But yeah, I mean, those rumors are definitely true that they are above board on all those things, 100%.
You told us at Summer League that your off-season work this year, going with the role that's expected, is going to be different than the off-season work that you do going into a Denver season. Like you have to prepare for what your role is going to be. So that off-season work, expanded role, like Jordy talked about, probably going to be more, handling the ball and doing some of those things. What does it look like? What are the things you specifically been focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of NBA players in their workouts, they practice the things that they're going to do in the game because there's very little use in doing some things that you're never going to be able to do in the actual game. So in Denver, although I would still explore my game and work on different things, I wasn't spending a lot of times in my workouts coming off of pick and roll and hitting the pocket or doing different things like that. And over here, I mean, a lot of the attention in my workouts is of those things that I'll be doing different here. Mid-post work, catching the ball in the mid-post and facing up and making a read and being able to jab and shoot right over the top or one dribble pull-ups and things like that. And in Denver, those weren't the shots that, although I could probably do those things, those weren't the shots that the team, wanted me to take. And I feel like on a championship team, a lot of guys have to sacrifice. Aaron Gordon, for a lot of the years that I was there with him, he went from being the go-to guy in Orlando to downsizing his role in Denver. And that's what it takes. So now to kind of have those reins off and kind of be able to shoot different shots and those be okay to shoot, it definitely changes your workouts, just the repetitions that you do.
And you've been very active on social media. You've been doing the vlogging stuff. You've opened up about some stuff personally. Just what inspired that this off season? Kind of that side of your personality and letting that show.
Yeah, I mean, the podcast I started years ago. I just thought it's important. Some of the things that I've gone through. I think it's important for players to be able to kind of have a say in their own narrative and not just be. So I mean that was part of it. I've had the podcast for a while, so it was nothing new. It honestly was just more of attention to detail in my life. I read a book and it was just like that thing that you put off for in the future, like spend an hour a day doing it now. And so I was like, man, what's something I really wanted to grow in the future? And it was my podcast thing. So I just honestly gave it more effort because you have 24 hours in a day. I'm not going to be in the gym all 24 hours. So I think it was just a little bit more of intentionality of just trying to be more consistent with it. And obviously it took off a little bit and people paid attention to it, but there was nothing that really inspired it. It wasn't like, oh, I got traded, now let me just get on this podcast. I think it was just me just being more focused on it a little bit, yeah.
Mike, welcome to Brooklyn. Obviously, this is a different situation than what you had in Denver. Obviously, this team is still rebuilding. Do you feel like you get to impart the knowledge of like what it's like to win the championship with these young guys, or is those conversations with, some of the younger players just like more of, hey, this is how you can improve your game, and we'll see how the wins come at a future point in time?
No, I think, when the season starts and then we see how we're playing as a team and we see, like, I'll be able to tell, like, oh, this is what we need to work on if we really want to win games. Or, like, in the fourth quarter, the first 3 quarters when it's more up and down, we do pretty well. But in the fourth quarter, when things slow down, we're struggling. Like, we'll be able to go through the film, and Jordy's one at the high level as well. But me being on the floor and then playing with all these young guys, I think that's part of my duty as now a guy who's been in the league 7, 8 years. I think that's part of my job and my duty to kind of like impart some of those winning habits to my teammates that I'll be on the floor with. So I'm definitely embracing that. I think that'll be a big part of what I focus on for sure.
Like, this is a twofold. Do you view yourself more effective as a 3 or 4, or is that just depending on whoever you're on the floor with, whatever the lineup is? And you touched on your pod. I'm curious whether some of your podcasting comments about the WNBA has that elicited any of the Liberty players to try to get you on a pod to debate, WNBA
I mean,
salaries or anything?
I'm the biggest fan of the WNBA. I have 2 sisters that for most of my childhood beat me every single day at basketball. Like I'm the biggest fan of the WNBA. I grew up with Sophie Cunningham. She's also from my same city, so we've talked a little bit about being able to just chop it up and talk on a podcast and things like that. As far as your basketball question, I think it depends on the matchups. I think 4s sometimes have a harder time keeping up with me coming off of screens and things like that. But the NBA is so fluid now. Even if I play the 4, other teams can still put whoever they want to put on me, defensively. But I think the 3, 4, I feel comfortable in either position. I feel like I can rebound good enough to play the 4 at times with Nick or Dayon out there at the 5. But yeah, I think it's just really whatever the coaches want. I think if we're playing really big, then I can slide to that 3 spot and we can put another big guy at the 4, Drew Timme or someone else. But I can also play the 4 as well. So I think it'll just be different.